Well, first of all, thanks very much for joining us here today. My name is Dale Lutz.
And my name's Don Murray.
And a special thank you to all of you tuning in from home. Thanks for taking time to join us remotely. So
what are we talking about here?
Well, this is going to be interesting this morning because Don and I have gone off for the last 2 weeks presenting each a variant of this presentation, and now we're bringing it back together. So Don's never going to quite know what's coming up next.
That's right. I lost the coin toss. the coin toss. There you go.
Yes. So just a few words about Safe Software. We're located in beautiful Surrey, British Columbia, just a suburb, a fantastic suburb, just not far at all from Vancouver. And I know all the people here wish they lived in Surrey, but
we're right beside a hot tub plant.
Hot tub plant.
Yeah.
It's very relaxing. There's also a fish food factory nearby as well.
That's right. So it's really good smells.
But it's a wonderful place. And so we are about 90 people or so,
yep,
plus or minus, and we've been around since 1993.
19 years.
Yeah, so we're soon going to be hiring people that were born after the company was started. And if that doesn't make me feel old, I don't know what will. So that's a little bit about us. Our FME product is now used in like just about every country outside of the axis of evil.
I was going to say every country except for North Korea.
Yes, and so we're very pleased about that. It's been translated to 5 different languages and supports just a large amount of things. And that's what we're going to talk about today, actually, is this thing called FME.
Awesome.
And we like to say that FME powers the flow of spatial data. In other words, it gets spatial data from wherever you need it, from wherever it is to wherever you need it to be, except that more generally, it really powers the flow of data.
Yeah, because of course, if we just moved just the spatial data and left all the attribution behind, well, we probably only have, like, you and I would probably be here because it wouldn't be too useful. Because, well, that attribution isn't very exciting. It's kind of important. So
yes, and so it turns out that a lot of folks have problems that don't involve explicit spatial geometry, but FME can still play a great role. And I like to tell the story of our reseller in the UK who goes to a municipality, and maybe they're tuned in today and they can verify the story, but they go to a municipality and do some kind of example where they take building footprints in 2D, extrude them with FME to 3D, put textures on the side, put it out into a 3D PDF or in Google Earth and do a fly-through, and the customers go, that's kind of interesting. And so then, then they go and they take an asset tracking spreadsheet that's got nothing spatial at all, that's kind of a big unstructured thing, and they run an FME process that produces a new spreadsheet with 3 tabs, a summary tab, and then kind of broken out by asset class, and the people go, you're kidding me, you guys can do spreadsheets? Unbelievable, that's amazing. And so sometimes these things that aren't that visually stunning are actually even more useful, and we're starting to see more people realize that about FME, and we're going to be trying to convey that as we move ahead. So I think we've got a first poll along that question. Roger, where are you in back there? Can you tell us the poll, please, Roger?
So the first question we have here is, I use FME to move, and there's a bunch of options here. The first is only spatial data. Second is only non-spatial. The third is both. And Don wanted to throw in none of the above.
And I also want to throw in all of the above.
There you go.
Which would include none of the above, just because that's a very interesting
So anyway, in this audience here, so all the folks at home answer, how many use FME only for spatial data? A few of you. How many of you use FME for spatial and non-spatial? Okay, good. This crowd is... and then how many only for non-spatial? I wouldn't expect there's too many in that camp. No. Nope. And then how many don't use FME at all for anything? Yes, thank you for coming, Ted.
Yeah, and he's one of our speakers.
That's wonderful. Ted's going to be speaking later.
So that's going to be a very interesting presentation. I'm looking forward to that.
That's fantastic.
I think the title of his presentation is Why I Need FME But Haven't Bothered to Use It.
Yes, so we'll tune in for that this afternoon. So Roger, are the polls closed?
They're starting to stream in here.
Okay.
Right. So we got the majority of people, actually about 2/3 are using it for both.
Yes.
Yeah. And we got a small chunk, about a quarter for only spatial data, but so
right. And how
both
many
is
none
the
of
way.
the aboves?
None of the aboves. Oh, we got one.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Well, thank you very much for tuning in.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can be convinced by Ted a bit later today about why you might need FME. All right. So we're going to do a couple of these polls just to engage people out there, and thanks very much. So the rest of this morning's chunk, we're going to talk about things that are new in FME 2012. Yeah. And if you are someone who hasn't ever used FME before, this is going to be a little bit like sipping from a fire hose.
That's right.
So there's going to be a lot of information about different bits and pieces, and ideas to kind of get you thinking about different things you can do with the product. If you want to kind of step back and learn more how to do it, then that's a great opportunity to use Craig's name in vain or in not to get some of that free training to kind of get, go from a starting point.
Yep.
The other point is actually we have a lot of webinars archived online. If you want to dig in, you can look at those as well.
And I think Stuart's going to talk about that today, all our stuff online.
So the first thing, and we're going to spend the next 10 or 15 minutes on the splash screens.
Because we probably have the largest splash screen department of any software company anywhere.
I know Robin always enjoys when we use all of our time on splash screens, so this one's for you, Robin. But no, we have some fun with the splash screens. We started off this year thinking that, okay, it's 2012, the Mayan calendar runs out in 2012. This could be the last FME.
Yeah.
And if it is, I'm really mad because we spent a lot of money on FME 2013 already.
I know, and we haven't told the developers yet because we don't want them to realize that they're working on a product that might never ship.
Yes.
So.
Well, I'm just sad that we didn't save that money for the end of the world because we could have,
we could have gone on a trip.
Exactly.
Say to see the Mayan ruins, for example.
That's right. So, but like somebody told me, if the Mayans could predict the future so well, then how come there's no Mayans? So, but anyway, so we had some fun, and from there it turned into an Indiana Jones thing, and our lizard is in there, and I think Mark Stokes is going to end the day. Are you, Mark? Okay. If the world doesn't end before the end of the day, Mark is going to tell us more about the lizard. But our graphics department made a few splash screens, and so we basically couldn't decide. So we like this one a lot too.
Yeah,
I don't know how those balls are suspended up above there.
That's magic. Those Mayans are pretty tricky.
Yeah. And so this one is one of our favorites.
That's one of my favorites. Although, I have to say I'm a little bit disturbed that a ball with an FME logo could potentially kill the FME mascot. Yeah. There must be some rule there. But anyway, that's my favorite when that one comes up.
Yes. And so lastly, this one. So how many of you that are using FME 2012 have seen any of these alternate splash screens? How many have you seen?
Yeah,
only the ball?
That's my
Anybody
favorite.
seen any of the other ones? No, this group, you must start FME once each day and then just stay with it all day long. We had some customers that saw
Maybe we
all
have
four.
a bug. Oh, we had a customer. Okay.
We had one customer that saw all four.
Yeah.
We couldn't decide, and so we use
very random number.
Very random. Basically, it's a number of seconds after the minute, and you have a 1 in 60 chance of seeing any of those other three. So if you collect all four, we should give you a prize. I like to tell people, too, a lot of folks don't know, but the city of Raw here, which really is a bit of a stretch from the Mayans, the city of Raw here, they actually had a 3D city model in City GML, and because it's human readable, they could put it on a papyrus scroll, and so we scanned that in and turned it into the PDF for this particular scene, so that was kind of nice, too.
Yeah, and you can see the... I was just going to say, you can see the shadow doesn't quite match the lizard, but there you go. The shadow doesn't have his...
Are you telling me this isn't a real picture?
I would never say that, but it's very interesting lighting.
Yes.
Say that.
So when we talk about FME, there's really three things to consider. In some respects, there's three products kind of living around in one. One of them is what we call the FME platform or the FME engine. And that's the set of functionality that's just in the core FME that lets you move data from A to B, so it includes all the formats, and then all the transformations between A and B. And so that's where the majority of our time this morning is going to be spent, talking about the new tools that we've given you to rearrange data. Now, the second thing is, on the desktop is where the FME desktop product lives, and that's where you get to author using those tools. And so I have a little bit of stuff that's just for the desktop this morning. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the FME server, where you take all those tools and the things you've authored from the desktop, put them up in a central place, and let people use them hands-free in more and more automated ways.
Yep.
And we'll introduce a few things this morning, and then Don's going to take a bunch away before lunch.
Just before lunch.
Okay.
Yeah. And that way, if I go overtime, I know I'm just...
You'll be hungry.
Yeah, that's right.
You're motivated to stop.
That's right.
Unlike when Don does XML, because of a nice full stomach.
Yeah, poor Stuart. One time, I thought it was 1 minute over. I was 16 minutes over, so Stuart had to do a half-hour talk in 6 minutes. The next time, he had 6.5 seconds. About that, yeah. So anyway, so now...
Right.
I'm under control.
So, okay. So we can, Craig, you're going to yank him off.
XML is pretty exciting, though.
Right. We'll skip through the XML slides. So we like to say FME is faster than a helicopter. This is because this is actually the mini Craig Vernons, the superheroes from last year that one of our German customers put into his model helicopter, which produces an XML flight line.
Yeah.
So there is an XML tie-in there.
There you go.
But we run about
4,500-ish?
Yeah, around 5,000-ish tests every night. And we track very carefully, A, that the output is the same or better.
Yep.
So one thing is, if any of you have critical workflows to your business, please send them in with some sample data. We'll put them into our test suite. That's our promise to you that it'll never, ever change, basically, or go backwards. But the folks came back and said that the timings on all those were down by almost a little more than a quarter.
Yeah.
To which Don and I said...
That's because they made them all faster, so that's kind of cheating, because a lot of the tests are, only take a fraction of a second.
Right. So basically, we didn't believe this first number across all the tests because, I don't know, several thousand of the tests take less than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So if we shave a second off every FME run, that's going to skew the percentage. And many of you don't care about 1 second faster across everything. So we had them go back and look at only tests that were taking more than 10 seconds.
Okay. Is that what that is?
That's what that one is, the long run.
Okay.
The long run tests.
Yeah.
And so... across those, we're 2% faster. And everywhere I went, and I'll see what I said, that's because Don pounds his fist on the table and says, every FME, what do you say, Don? You don't know?
I don't know what I say.
Okay. But I think he says every FME...
But it's not my fist, it's my head against the wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says every FME must be faster than the...
Oh, yeah, that's right. Or he won't ship.
Or he won't ship.
That's right, that's right.
And so we...
are there other things we measure in there?
We measure how much memory
Yeah,
we use.
memory leaks as well.
Yes,
so
yes.
we also watch that very quickly. So if memory leaks getting to zero, sort of like the speed of light.
Yes.
You can never actually get to the speed of light, but the more effort you put in, the closer and closer you can get. So we're watching the memory leaks as well. So and every time we fix a bug, what do?
We put in a test.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
we also try to tell the customers, too.
That's right. Because we don't want to fix the same problem more than once.
If we can help it.
If we can help it. Yeah.
So we also... introduced in this FME some stuff about multiprocessing. I can't remember. Are we doing the lightning talk on multiprocessing today or not? Nobody knows?
We are.
We are.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, then I'm not going to talk about it other than...
So does this stuff we've done with multiprocessing, is that in the 2% faster, the 25%?
No,
that's
not.
On addition?
That's over and above.
Holy
so
smokes.
If you flip what this does is it lets you make use of those 8-core machines that you all have on your desktops. And you can crank up the amount of FME processing that's going on at the same time. Yeah. And so to give you just a quick summary, Dimitri's here. Dimitri, wave your hand. The folks at home won't be able to see him, but Dimitri is kind of the expert on actually applying this. And so if you're interested, grab Dimitri during a break or tune in to the talk later today about this. Well, we support lots of things.
Yeah, and when we continue to add new ones, there's some data types that we don't support. And so if there are any data types that you'd like to support, let us know. One that we've heard on the road, both on the east and the west, was geotagged video.
Yes.
So that's an example of a data type that we do not yet support. So if there's others that you would like, let us know. And that's what we do. We add support for new types of spatial data.
Already in Mark's group, Dave Campanis, some of you locally would know the famous Dave Campanis. He's been doing some experimentation with clipping geotagged video with FME to a certain... So we've got this long video, we've got a river, let's say. Let's just clip out the pieces of the video that are close to the river. So we take 2 hours of video and get it down to 15 minutes. Already people are starting to be able to do that kind of thing, and that's an area. If that's of interest to you, please talk to us. We are looking at that moving forward. But the world just doesn't stop adding formats, Don.
No, we love them too.
Yes.
Formats are sort of like the tax, because what we're really excited about is the data integration, bringing different data sets together to deliver the data to the application so you can use it. But of course, the formats are the key to the city. If we can't read the format, then it's a very short discussion when you ask us if we can help you. Okay.
So I'm always surprised that this graph continues to grow. We aren't particularly trying at SAFE to pump up the format number.
I think we've added 5 already for 2013.
There's at least 5, And the other thing is that this understates the true number because customers can add their own or third parties, and we don't keep track of that.
Yeah, and a great opener if you're at a party and you bump into somebody who uses FME, you can say, tell me, what's your favorite format? It's sure to...
But everybody just says XML, don't they, Don?
Well, yeah. Well, if they don't, I just leave.
Yes. So in terms of the new formats, here's a list of them all. Let's see, the cat came back.
Yeah.
It wasn't the very next day. It was only about 12 years later. But there was a format in FME called column-aligned text.
Has anybody heard of Fortran out there? Yeah,
Yeah,
you old guys like me. Yeah, Fortran really was a great cat generator.
Yes, and there still are. In fact, on the road, one of the customers was talking about how on a daily basis he has an FME process that goes to some Texas FTP site, sucks down the daily well permits, and guess what format they're in, Don?
Column line text.
Yes.
Awesome.
And then he has to pick them apart with FME, so he was pretty excited about the cat.
Yeah, but we don't do scat yet.
No.
No, but that's
a different story.
Yeah, that's a different story.
We should give a prize to somebody that knows that actually was an FME format.
A lot of these formats up here are XML based. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I try not to dwell on that.
Yeah,
though.
okay.
The one that I do like to dwell on just for a minute or two is the Free File Geodatabase API. That lets you read and write file geodatabases without using an ArcObjects license. So what are the things to know about that? You can use it anywhere, even on Linux.
How about on the Mac?
It'll even run on the Mac. As a side note, FME runs on the Mac, but we don't sell it there yet. No. The UI is a little sketchy.
A little
sketchy still. The Free File Geodatabaase API, if you're doing points, lines, or polygons, it'll be about twice as fast to write as what the ArcObjects-based one is. But you know what? The File Geodatabaase API has a little trouble with commitments, Don.
Right.
It just won't do relationships.
Okay.
So
how about arcs? Does it do arcs?
It does arcs.
It does arcs.
But
okay.
no relationships.
No relationships.
So if that's important, it also doesn't do annotations. So if those are important to you, well, then you better get your ArcObjects license handy.
Yeah.
But if you're just doing points, lines, polygons with attributes, then this is a great.
Can it support attributes more than, say, 10 characters?
Yes.
So it's better than shape then?
It is better than shape.
Yeah.
By a long shot. And inside of FME, there's now 2 file geodatabase writers and readers. And Robin just loves this. You can talk to her about how we named these because we wanted to try. We did our best to try to make it clear to you all, y'all. Hey, actually, I learned how to say that in Oklahoma.
Okay, y'all.
Y'all. We tried to make it clear to y'all. And I also learned that. Let's say I refer to that table as "Hey, y'all" over there. If I wanted to refer to all of you, then I would say "all y'alls."
All y'all.
So.
So a table is like y'all, and then all y'alls.
That's right.
Okay.
So all y'alls. If you already are using the file geodatabase writer, you would be using the ArcObjects-based one. So if you wanted to convert a workspace, you have to add a new writer to that workspace, which is the API one.
Okay.
It'll have no feature types. It'll just be sitting there.
Yep.
Then you go to your existing feature types, click on one of them, and flip the writer to be the new one, and then say apply to all, and then bang, you've converted the workspace. Now, as long as there's no relationships or annotation, you'll be happy. So I think that's all I'll say about this. Is that
I
good?
think that's good.
I did want to do a tiny little thing about Google Fusion Tables. Some of you tuned into the webinar, and for those at home, if you want to afterwards, you can watch. We got a 1-hour webinar on the details behind this. But if you don't know about it, it's kind of an interesting cloud-based format. The beginning of these things, to some degree, I wouldn't be surprised if ArcGIS Online becomes available like this as well in FME in the weeks and months ahead. But today we'll take a quick peek at Fusion Tables. And so we have a little case study I want to quickly go through with Dr. John Snow. Many of you know that this is really the first reported use of GIS. What many of you don't know was that it was actually a crowdsourced effort that involved using an early version of Facebook. I thought Zuckerberg stole it from those twins.
Yeah, but he stole it from John Snow.
Well, or even somebody else.
Wow.
So this is the King James Facebook we have here.
Wow.
And so Dr. John Snow posted back in 1854 asking if there's a crowdsourced data set of cholera deaths out there. And just like today, some troll comes on and says, "You're a nut bar. Knowest not that cholera be a plague of the air and not the water. Laugh out loud." So even in 1854, there were these kind of people. But thankfully, someone more helpful comes on and says, "Don't listen to that imbecile. You can find a crowdsourced cholera map on the line at this place here." And he's very thankful. He says, "Wow, it's an OSM open sewer map format. That's fantastic. Many thanks, Your Highness." So let's go out here and take a look. So here is my Google Documents, and I do not have any recent cholera files, thankfully. And so I'm going to go out here into my Fusion Tables area, and I'm going to load up this workspace, which is fairly straightforward. We just have a GPX file going to Fusion Tables and an OSM. If I want to write to Fusion Tables, I can say Add Writer, and I would say Fusion Tables. I can pick if I want spatial or not.
Okay. And the hardest part of writing to this format really is remembering your password?
Yes, which I've had that happen in
I have
and so
too.
then I've actually gone and saved it as my default, so that doesn't
that's what I did too.
So that's a little tip. But it does mean if you are making workspaces that have Fusion tables, I've had one customer mail me their workspace. That means I've run their Gmail account.
The most excitement we had was one of our presenters password protected his workspace and forgot the password.
Is that really right?
Yeah, so we have it on a stick, and we're going to try to help him.
Okay, that's exciting too.
Yeah, that was exciting.
So anyway, I can go ahead and just run this. When you're writing to Fusion tables, you can pick what kind of attribute types you're going to be working with. These are the types. But location is an interesting one because you can write text strings that are addresses in there, and then it will do the geocoding. So let's go ahead and write this thing. And there's nothing quite as exciting as the log file going by, I find. What about you, Don?
No,
especially when you're writing to a cloud service that has to go through these wires and out to Google and everything else. So there's a variety of things that can happen.
That can go wrong. Exactly.
So it's with a little bit of trepidation that I watch the log file each day as I do this.
Yeah.
So there we go. Thankfully, looks. Oh, and there it is. So these two just appeared.
Yeah.
And so I can go in and look at the cholera cases. And usually at this point, well, there's a bunch of them here. These are how many deaths at each spot. And so I can visualize this on a map. Oh, and that's merry old London, and that's not London, Ontario either.
Yeah.
So we can kind of zoom in here and take a peek at things, and I can click on them and see. So all of this is just out of the box Google Fusion tables. I can then decide if I want to share this with my friends and control how much or how little access I want to give them.
And so you're just running this on desktop. You didn't need an FME server to share data like this?
Nothing.
Just plain old desktop.
Exactly.
How much did this cost? Do you have to buy this Google Fusion
Nope,
stuff?
it's free for the privilege of having a Gmail account.
Wow.
Which my friend FME Meister has.
Yeah.
So the one thing is you can't overlay. So if I'm Dr. John Snow, I don't know how to see the pumps on top of here. Their online tool doesn't do that. But I can make myself a little bit of HTML. And here's one that I did with the Voronoi diagram overlaid that kind of shows the influence of each pump. Sadly, I don't have a way to show more than 2 tables at a time. And I know folks at home might say to me, but Dale, Google says you can actually show a total of 5 at a time. Well, they say that, but I've never got it to work.
Okay.
So I had to write a little bit of HTML. One other thing, when you're working with these Fusion tables, let's hop back to one here. You have to know their ID. So this is a very important number. They don't really use the name. You can use SQL or SQL against these things, but you have to always use this number. So that's what that is. And so over in here, I've got 3 tables that I kind of tried to make work. And over here, I'm going to just go and change that to layer 3, save it, get rid of this. And then if I refresh my cholera outbreak, let's see, with luck. Yeah, there we go. We've got a different kind of styling. And now I can click on these pumps and see pump number 1 had 250 deaths closest to it. Ooh. And if I go out here, I think, you know what?
I'm going to pump 7.
Yeah, I think pump 7 might be the best one.
Yeah.
So that's what, if I was crowdsourcing this or sharing this out, we would get people to use pump number 7. So that's just a little bit about Fusion tables to whet your appetite. It's an interesting thing. Don, you've certainly been using it a lot for many of the examples.
Yeah, we're going to see all the server stuff we see later is powered by those.
Very powerful, quick way to get data up.
So how does it scale? Do you have to worry about, like, if you have 100,000 viewers, do you have to...
No, but you do have to worry if you've got 100,000 rows.
Yep.
Good question. Fusion tables caps out at 100,000 rows of data.
Yep.
So that's something. There's a thing called CartoDB that's trying to be a Google Fusion Tables competitor, and that thing can scale past that. So that's worth looking at if this sort of stuff excites you. All right, we thought we'd take a quick peek at some LiDAR things in FME, and I'm just going to quickly show you...
I'm glad you have your server window open there.
I don't leave home without it, Don.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's just take a look in LiDAR. What I'm going to do is look at whichever one was the most recent. I'm not doing exactly what I did on the road each day, so let's look at this one here.
I never did the same thing any day either.
Okay, so I've got here some input data that was some XYZ files. Okay. I'm in friendly Canada, so I can say that. I'm going to use this open containing folder, and we'll take a peek where they are. Here they are. And if I say view with the data inspector, which is the good 3D tool in FME.
Stuart actually mocked me when we were on the road. Just thought I'd share that with you.
Why?
Because I opened too many windows. And Stuart had some comments during the middle of his talks about how open containing folder was made for me because I had so many windows open. It's the only way I could possibly find what I was doing.
Right. So there's that point cloud. So that's quite nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I've got an ortho photo for that area. Notice how I don't use the data inspector for that, just because I'm nervous. Okay. And then I also have an area of interest, which is my project site. All right. And so there it is right there. So that's all my data, and that LiDAR is in the middle there. And so what I'm going to do is first join those LiDAR files into one, clip them to my project site, and here's where it gets exciting. I want to colorize the point cloud. So this one here goes out, and it takes a raster that I pulled in from the bottom, and for each point in the point cloud, we go down to the raster, lift the color out, and put it up onto the point cloud. And we could set other things too. We could set the intensity or the Z values or whatever we felt like in that way. And I can choose what interpolation I want to do too. And then lastly, I'm outputting here to a LiDAR file, but I'm compressing it because in FME 2012, we have this option on our last writer called compress files, yes or no. And that uses an absolutely free LiDAR compression library by this genius guy named Martin Eisenberg, who's coming to Vancouver in September for a LiDAR conference. I'm looking forward to meeting him there, which squeezes your data down between half to 10% of original. Now, our mileage, Dimitri, you can quiz afterwards, our mileage has been more like 30%-ish, but definitely some folks are getting as much as 1/10 the resulting size. Many states in the U.S. making their LiDAR holdings available with this thing. So that's that. And then I'm also, just because I want to share this with my, hi Mom, I know you're tuning in today. I want to share the results with her. I'm making a tin out of that point cloud, slapping the raster on top, and making a PDF. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And I think it should write to this output directory. Let's see. Is there output here? Well, there's nothing in there right now, Don.
Oh, there it is.
One thing's coming. Okay, and how about the rest? The PDF is coming. It's quite exciting. Oh, it looks like it's done. All right. So let's go look at my LAS file. Let's see. So I need to get my friend the data inspector up and running, and then I'll get the LAS file. And we'll see. We should have a colorized LiDAR file here. So it says it's, LAS compressed. And there it is. That's a relief. And so, whoops, we'll do this. Yep. And so there's our point cloud, nice and colorized. So that's believable. And we also should have this PDF we made. And there's a nice 3D PDF.
I bet even your mom knows how to use PDF.
Yep, she does. I've made her do it, actually.
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's good. And I like to tell people it's not just that we make these PDFs to play with. If I type here, let's see. Look at that. It looks like I've searched for that before. Our friends at Shell, in their last newsletter, in fact, our last newsletter, they are making 3D PDFs using FME Server. And so let's just take a peek at what those look like. So they're integrating data from a bunch of places, making the surface model, draping it on top, drawing some vectors on there, and then putting the well traces, the well bores down underneath. Wow. And so this is done through an FME Server thing. One of their geophysicists gets a web page, they fill in a land location, bang, out comes the PDF. And so this is a bit of foreshadowing that I'm going to set Dawn up for later.
Okay, perfect.
Remember this?
Yeah.
What if the guy makes the PDF today and the world changes in the next week and then he doesn't?
Right.
So remember that.
I'll remember that.
Because those poor
I'll try to
Shell
incorporate
guys.
that into my story.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm setting you up.
Perfect.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
All right. Okay. So let's just whip through a few things. We can translate point clouds like crazy. If some people care about new formats like E57, the FME 2013 betas have that. Now, this is the compression stuff we talked about. If you have existing workspaces, you're going to have to add a new writer to pick up this option and then do that trick that I said. Okay, we saw me inspecting them. We like to talk about the data inspector being a great scientific research and experimental development tax credit
That's right.
for SAFE. We've been up on the original viewer Don wrote on a weekend back in 1995, I think. And of course it got added to a little bit over time.
A lot of people have worked on it since then.
But nonetheless, it represents probably less than 6 months of
effort.
This new one is now at about 5 man-years of effort,
Yeah.
or person-years. And maybe if we had women working on it, it would be
So why are we doing this new one again? What's
So-
the end goal here?
to be cross-platform.
That's right. Yep.
And secondarily to do 3D.
That's
But
right.
anyway, good news is I think we've unlocked the mysteries.
Yeah.
And
So really what we want to get to is having the entire desktop authoring on many platforms, so not just the Windows platform. So
Yes.
then if you had a Mac or a Linux device, you'd be able to use Workbench or the viewer there. Yeah.
right. Okay, so we can inspect, we can reproject. In this FME, if some of you care, if you're surveyors, we can do coordinates that are measured from the center of the Earth. And as well, we can deal with orthometric heights in North America. But if that isn't good enough for you, this is exciting as when Sonny and Cher were reunited on the stage of David Letterman in 1987. I remember watching that. Blue Marble and Safe Software together in the same software package. So we've worked out something with Blue Marble where if you have their products, you can use their reprojection capabilities because many people find that they have committed to the Blue Marble as the gospel truth in their organization.
Yeah.
And so that's, and it has a very extensive library as well. And so I think on May the 1st, some announcements will be made. But you've heard it here first, folks.
And what if I'm using Esri? Can I use Esri reprojection? Or
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can.
Okay.
As well. So that's there. All right, we can tile. We can clip point clouds. We can thin. That means getting rid of data here and there in a variety of ways. Make tins. Combine many small ones into a big one. Split them. We can actually split by a number of things. So you might just want only the last return, the ground.
Yeah.
We can split by classification. But our friends at, where are they? Somewhere in Quebec that are splitting by color ranges. So let's get only the yellow points out, and that will give us, that's Ministry of Transportation there, and they'll give us the center lines of the roads. So then they can kind of do feature extraction in a way.
Yeah, centerline extraction here.
Yeah.
So if I'm a forest company and I want to measure my wood, can I do that with LiDAR?
Yeah, you could get the difference between the top and the bottom.
So the first and last return?
Yes,
Okay.
would tell you something. Okay, this is that thing about lifting values off of raster and moving it into a point cloud. This is an important one. If you're going to be moving to ArcGIS 10.1, in ArcGIS 10.1, you can display and do a lot of interesting things with LiDAR natively. LAS files, not compressed LAS files, but just the LAS files. But you need to have this thing called a LASD or LASD file, the last data set. That be very clear. It's not an LSD file.
Right.
Okay. And when we cross the border, we never say we're going to do LSD demos in the States. we do not say that. But it's a bit of a pain in ArcGIS to make those. You've got to run a geoprocessing tool. So we added the ability right in FME. If you're producing LAS files, you get the LASD and you're in business. Okay, profiling and slicing. I do have a demo to show that, but I think I'll skip that today. So, but bottom line is you get results that look like this. So you can basically use FME to follow along a road, clip out along a piece of LiDAR, only little slices perpendicularly, and then take a look at it. You know what? I'm going to show it. It's just
Absolutely.
too much.
Go for it.
It's too much fun.
If you're excited about it, I'd do it.
Yeah,
I'm excited about XML, so I
and
can't
you're going to show
really
some
talk
things about it.
And XML is very visual, as I'm sure you can imagine.
It's exciting to look at.
Yeah.
So almost as exciting as this. So let's look at the profiling example. Almost Heaven, West Virginia. Okay, here we go. Let's run it. And so this is going along, taking that LiDAR, and Dimitri, my friend back there, made this, computing perpendicular lines, getting a buffer, clipping that out, and now here it comes. And one of the most exciting things of all these demos is actually zooming into the right spot. So we got to go to 3D, we got to go zooming, we kind of drag over there, but no matter what I do, it kind of creeps off to the side. So, all right, there it is. And now we'll turn off the original LiDAR, we'll turn off the project zone, and we'll turn off all the roads. And so now we can flip this up, and we can zoom in a little bit, and you can see what the profile of the land is along that line, that line.
That's cool.
So that's pretty cool.
That is.
And one thing Mark and I have learned is I always get rid of the data inspector before I go back to my presentation.
Okay. Bad things can happen.
Yeah. Sorry, those of you in Austin, Texas. We did learn our lesson. Okay. Just some idea. These are numbers Dimitri has made. But yes, in FME 2012, we can handle 1 billion points at a time. Don, when you and I started years ago, remember a big file, we'd have to use
PK zip, philcat zip,
to split it onto 2 floppies.
I know.
And
I know.
actually, some of you in this room worked with us back then. I see Bob is laughing. Remember, Bob, those huge data sets with 40,000 points. They were called mass points. There were so many of them. And now we have people that to send us the data, we can't even use the internet.
Nope.
Because
they send us a terabyte drive in an envelope.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. And so Dimitri has a whole room full of terabyte drives now from customer test data that we get. All right. Raster. I said FME would never do raster, and I regret it.
Yeah, you certainly have never said FME will never do video.
That's right. I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
So I'll just whip through. Yes, on the raster side, we can translate huge number of formats in FME for raster.
I guess the shuttle radar one is we're not collecting any new data on that.
It's a collector's item now.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Wang format that we had.
That's right. That's right.
So
GFIS is probably another one.
Yeah, GFIS. Yeah. There's a few of these that, we should have sort of a special day to kind of honor the formats of days gone by.
That's right. That's right.
SDE 2.0.
Oh, yeah, there's
a
good one.
Classic one.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Where do old formats go, Don?
I think they just keep hanging on. Somebody out there has them.
I think so, yeah. I'm kind of all teared up now. It's kind of, this is what happens when we... That never happened to me on the road. And now Don's here.
Now we're getting...
all sentimental. Yeah. Okay, quick. Let's get to something that snaps out of... Okay, resampling. Yes, we can resample. Of course, we can reproject.
Yeah.
And we can reproject using the various engines besides ours, too.
That's right.
The Blue Marble one and others.
One. Yeah, yeah.
Mosaicing, we do a great job at that.
Yeah.
We can compress. Can't compress with Mr. Sid because they won't let us, but we can compress with everything else.
Yeah.
And we can read Mr. Sid.
That's right.
So that's kind of nice.
So I guess you use JPEG 2000 then if you...
Yep, yeah. Or ECW.
Yeah.
I think they say ECW.
ECW?
When you go south, yeah. So we can clip, we can tile. We can tile for the web, and we're seeing more people doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Actually...
that's a great example.
We're putting some effort in right now to increase FME's flexibility in this area. And as well, some folks have asked about us supporting a new tiling format called MB Tiles. And if that's of interest to the folks at home or the folks here, please write it on your sheets if you care about MB Tiles. That's on the edge of making it or not in FME 2013. But it's a very fast tiling format that a lot of web map tiling servers can use. The other thing I'd say about this is that we've had people ask us if we're going to support MapNIC, which there's a group called Mapbox that makes a thing called TileMill, and underneath the technology is a thing called MapNIC. All of that is about rendering gorgeous cartographic rasters out of vectors. And so if that's something that you might be interested in, let us know. A few folks on the road looking at that. Because what you could do is use FME, bring a bunch of interesting vectors together, render them using MapNIC, and then tile them up.
Yeah.
And then Bob's your uncle. All right, we can drape. You saw that with that LiDAR example. And look at that. You saw that before, too. We can take a raster and lift it up onto a point cloud. And, boy, we should have had the example from our friends at Township of Langley. They might be here today. Yes, we have used your test data, and we've done exactly this. And you can see the results from Dimitri. And we do appreciate a lot of our local municipalities, many of you helping us with nice test sets of data. Plus, it's nice we can make a road trip. It's expensive to send Dimitri to West Virginia to check if it's right.
Absolutely.
But if he can just put him in his car and send him out to Langley, that's a lot less expensive. There's a lot of powerful things you can do with rasters in FME. Of these, I would mention that we can do raster math per cell, and we'll look at that in a minute. For a company that said we would never do raster, we've done a lot.
We've done a lot of raster. Yeah.
Yes. Do you have a favorite in that list, Don?
Raster DEM, it's tough. Oh, the expression evaluators are pretty.
The raster math is fun.
Yeah.
I thought, Don, is there a DEM generator or something like that?
There is a raster DEM generator.
That would be one of Don's
But the first
favorites.
letter I went for was something about rasters and XML. So I'm going to.
There is no XML raster.
There's no rastered XML transformer.
The raster XML converter.
That's right.
Now we're going to need like 10 terabyte drives.
We would, yeah, at least.
Okay. But all of this was just to introduce this new functionality that we have in FME 2012, which I think is quite interesting. And this is just for you, Keith. Keith asked us for this maybe 8 years ago, and he's back today to see it unveiled. Thanks, Keith. So let's take a look. If we go to the desktop here, under raster, we got the segmentation example. And I just have to flip this around, so I'm not going to use Data Inspector to look at this. I'm going to look at this with the good old-fashioned classic universal viewer, and I'm going to run it. While it's running, I'll talk it through. We got an elevation model from our friends in Sherbrooke, a CDED file, and the first thing we're doing is rounding the elevation using raster math to the nearest 25. So I figured this out myself, Don. I was pretty proud.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Except it says round to the nearest 5.
Yeah.
It is actually the nearest 25.
Okay.
So we divide by 25, add a half, take the floor, and times by 25. Okay, so now we've got a raster that everything is in multiples of 25. And this new thing called the raster to polygon coercer goes and threads the polygons.
Okay.
But they would be kind of ugly staircase polygons, and Keith said he didn't want that. Yeah. So he wanted something nicer. And to do that, we use this make curvy.
Okay, what's make curvy?
Which is the generalizer.
Oh,
now, it's
okay.
kind of an odd thing that the generalizer does because, Don, only the first 3 or 4 of these actually generalize.
Yeah, it does a whole bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with generalization.
I'm fitting NURBS,
Yeah,
which is a different form of, basically, I'm trying to make a nice, curvy, smooth thing.
Yeah.
So and we've added a lot of things into this generalizer over the years. If you haven't...
Do you have Poiker there?
Poiker is part of Douglas.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of a religious thing. so get Don and I over a cool and we can tell you the story of that. But anyway, so we can fit NURBS in there. And then I'm making these outputs. So let's take a look. Do I have output? Output? Yes, I do. All right. So let's zoom this up somewhere inside here. All right. So if we go back, we'll turn off things. Here's the original raster, and if I click in here, you can see these cell values. They're kind of nice integers. If I take a look here, here's the output just for Keith. So if I click on this one, it's 175, and I better be that if I go to one side or the other, it's going to be 25 off. That's what I'm hoping.
That's your prediction?
I hope it is. Nervously await it.
Waiting. Uh-oh.
There's a lot of data there because when you make NURBS... Okay, 150, that's good.
That's good.
And so... it all worked. We got nice. And if we zoom in somewhere, look how nice and smooth and curvy that is done.
That's awesome.
I really like it.
Keith loves it.
Heath loved. Look at him. He's smiling.
Yeah.
He can't believe he had to wait 8 years, but it's worth it. It's worth every second, isn't it, Keith? So that's what I wanted to show. That's some fairly high-end. I actually sometimes make jokes about cell phone tower strengths.
Yep.
Better not, because this is broadcast live. But telcos do use this kind of thing to figure out where
the signal strength is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'll just, in case, Don, you're presenting somewhere where there isn't any telcos in the audience, you can make jokes at that point. Okay. Let's see. We got niche formats, and that's the end of my raster.
Awesome. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there a webinar on that?
There is. If you go into our webinar archive and you want to see in more detail all the things I've just flown through, there's a nice...
And demos of a lot of them?
Demos of a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think, have we ever done... Hey, Mark, have we ever done a raster online course? Yes. In fact, these folks might be eligible for a free one, I think. I think they are.
You just have to say Craig is and then fill in the blank.
And hope that we've scheduled one. But I think that there is one scheduled for later this year.
Yeah.
So if you want to know more about FME and Raster.
And FMEpedia, I guess. Stuart's going to talk about where we find more information on all
Yeah,
this
Dimitri
stuff.
has a bunch of stuff up there on all these things as well.
Yeah.
In both LiDAR and the Raster side.
Yeah.
So switching gears, another key functionality was this thing here. As we've toured around, a lot of folks have figured this is one of the key things.
It is. This is exciting. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as we like to say, it unleashes that inner join that's been inside of all of you that's wanted to come out all this time. But what this is about is it lets you add into the middle of FME basically a temporary database.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so in the example I have here, I've got my favorite birds and eggs, column line text.
Are you going to show us the column line text GUI?
I could.
Because that is awesome.
You like it?
Oh, I love it.
Well,
yeah.
okay.
Because it's so easy to use. That's why I love it.
So it's here.
So yeah, so what the inline query is about is performance is something we take very seriously at SAFE. And so we analyzed a lot of workspaces, and what we found was that people, who here has used a feature merger? Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah. How about 2 in a row? Have you ever had to merge 3 things together? So, yeah.
I got a 2 in a row back there.
And
what's the highest? Tell us the highest that you've ever had in a row. How many? 4. Okay.
So
here's Bob. Bob's got 7.
Okay.
Let's give Bob a sport for that.
Yeah, just don't throw it. It's really
I need a
embarrassing.
runner. Who's going to be my runner to give Bob a... I'll run out there while you talk.
Oh, here comes Drew. Here comes Drew.
Drew, can you give
Drew
me
is Drew's excited because the New York Rangers won. So, yeah, boo. Okay. So yeah, the thing about the feature merger is it's great if you just have two streams and you want to do something simple. But the moment you start chaining one after the other, your performance is going to take a huge dive because you're writing a lot of stuff to disk every time you use a feature merger. So as part of our, well, Dale's getting this going, I'll keep talking. So as part of our performance things, what we also do is we look and we say, well, what are people doing and how can we make them more productive? And the inline querier is a great example of that because now you can merge as many things together as you want in one transformer. We're using, what database are you using? SQLite?
SQLite.
Yeah. And you can also have as many outputs as you want. So look at this I mean, this is just the most amazing user interface. Oh, you're off by one. You better fix that. How do you do that?
I don't know. I just dragged it over.
There you go. Look at that, eh?
You get the idea. We can bring these in, and then we can also indicate what kind of field type this is, and even say that it's actually an X or Y coordinate in there. But
you could have done this in the old FME. You would have to use the favorite reader, the text line.
I know.
And then you'd have string splitters all over the place, and of course, you know, I have a 15 transformer rule, so you're going to use all 15 of your transformers you're allowed to use, just trying to figure this crazy thing out. Off by one error, it'd just be a nightmare.
So what I do is I end up routing each of these three things into this transformer. Now, when I put down a new one, this is the part that got Don kind of rattled the first time.
Yeah.
If you pop down a new one, you go like, what the heck is that?
Well, I thought it was really easy because it had no inputs and outputs. I thought, wow, how can I go wrong there? But I could never get the red to go away.
Yes. So anyway, you can go and basically you define the input tables you want to work with. One way of doing this is if those tables are the same as what you're reading, you can do this, and now each of them knows what their structure is.
Yeah.
And then I can go down here and start making up output queries, as many as I want.
Oh, yeah.
I can just drag things out. Like, let's say I wanted just these two fields. I can select the egg ID and the feature content from the cat.
What's feature content? That wasn't on the original.
Yeah, feature content is sort of a hidden thing that represents all the geometry and all the fullness of the original FME feature.
Okay.
So actually, you don't need to define all the columns of the input feature. You only want to define the ones you're actually going to query.
Oh, ones are going to use in a select statement.
Yes, because these are the ones that are going to be indexed, basically. Perfect. But the feature content is everything else. And so I can do joins and everything else from this. If I say OK here.
Can I type like spatial joins, like select this, buffer that, where is inside?
No.
Okay.
But we might do something called spatial light.
Right.
Eventually, we may extend this so that we will have a full spatial database under there. There's an open source spatial database called Spatial Light. If we put that in there, maybe this release or next, then you'd be able to do that. I'd like to tell people my example, and we'll see how politically incorrect this is, but I'll go for it.
Go for it.
So you can have maybe your proposed pipeline.
Yeah.
And then environmentally sensitive areas.
Yep.
Define this thing. They could be coming from totally non-database things, different places.
Yep.
And then you define this, and then you can say select pipeline routes that intersect, where they intersect environmentally sensitive areas.
Yep.
And you know what you'd find out? Everything is going to be selected because it's all environmentally sensitive. So you wouldn't even need your spatial database for that. I got a good laugh in San Francisco and in Austin, Texas over that one. But anyway, in Alberta, I didn't even try it.
No.
I was scared. Scared. There's just not very much sense of humor around this there. Okay, so you get the idea, but it lets us do some amazingly powerful things. So I can do aggregation, for example. Here I'm grouping by, basically I'm finding out how many eggs are in each nest. We never knew this before.
No, we didn't. And what did we find? Did we learn anything?
We found out actually that there's some nests that have no eggs. Jeez. We've been using this test set for about 15 years, and I never knew that there was some nests that had no eggs when you do this. So we can, all the things that you like to use with your SQL or SQL.
And you can write SQL as long as you want now.
Yeah, so here's one that we put together that's kind of interesting, that joins. It's a three-way join, so get everything from nests, eggs, and species, and then we join them all by their IDs. And then just to show off, we say, also, I only want to get results where there's at least 5 or more eggs in the nest.
Yeah.
So we weren't able to do, but I mean, if you're a SQL person, if you think of the world in terms of one big SQL statement, you can now start to solve interesting problems that you couldn't solve before because these things weren't in databases. And so you can build a temporary one, do something, chuck it out. This gets rid of the need for cascading feature mergers because you can do one in one shot, but it also opens up a whole pile more.
Can I get rid of the joiner and use this?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Because there's other database things in FME. The joiner's job is one feature goes by, and we're going to use its key to go out somewhere else and just read only the things for that one.
Right.
The feature merger or this thing are good when we're forced to be reading everything anyway, and we're kind of merging everything. So the joiner is good if we're just looking up a few things. The other one to know about is, we don't really talk about it, but there's this guy called a SQL creator or executor. And these things go out to an existing database and let us do SQL. So I can start selecting in here and so on. And this just throws the whole select statement out to the original database to begin with. So all these things, bottom line is FME is a pretty powerful tool to be using with databases, and we've given you some additional tools right inside the product to kind of SQL up your problems.
So if you know SQL, now you can leverage your SQL skills within FME.
Now, is it SQL or SQL? We should do an online poll around
It's sort of
that.
like, is it Esri or is it ESRI?
Right. What I did learn in Oklahoma City on this trip, I learned a number of things. One thing was I learned where Oklahoma was, which is...
Is Oklahoma City in Oklahoma?
It is.
Because Kansas City is actually in Missouri.
Ooh, I would have failed on that one. But in Oklahoma, I learned that if you actually say, I'd like... first of all, if you say, I'd like a pop, they don't know what you're saying. So you have to say, I'd like a Coke. And then they say, what kind? And then you say... Sprite, or you say Coke. If you really want a Coke, you have to say Coke twice, which does seem inefficient to me.
Yeah, I saw a map once of the U.S. where some places with soft drinks as opposed to a hard drink. We all know what a hard drink is. Soda, Coke,
and pop.
And pop.
If you get close to Canada, it turns into pop. But anyway, so I have to give my friends in Oklahoma a minus for that, but I do give them a plus for y'all because that is a very useful term to a group of people. Very efficient.
All y'all.
Okay, so you saw that example. And before I would have solved it with a cascading feature merger to join all these. Now I can do it with a querier, but I can also then do a bunch of other things that I couldn't do before. So that's really it for that. Hulls.
Convex, we do convex. What is a convex hull?
This one. It's like putting rubber band around the whole thing.
That's right.
So I remember that one.
So there's only one definition of a convex hull then, so it must be easy.
Yes. But the other kind we can now do is concave hulls. And that lets us snap more than rubber band, kind of like a vacuum seal around. And Don, can you answer me this. Why does this one curve in like that, and this one does not?
Because it must be because it's looking for the points. This point must be too far away from...
There's a measure called alpha, which I like to say is kind of like how big of a Pac-Man can you fit in there.
That's right. That's right. So oil companies sometimes to
they
represent an oil field, for example.
That's right. In fact, one of our customers from Kelman down in Houston put up his hand and was already using this. But he did say that it is a little bit of an art to figure out what the right value for this alpha is.
And as I tell my daughter, whenever you see a Greek alphabet letter, it's usually because it doesn't really mean anything, so that means play with it. Otherwise, it would have given it a...
That's a good way. So I'm just going to show people the... I won't actually fire up an example, but I will show the hull replacer.
Hull replacer.
Or accumulator, either one. One works on a group, one doesn't, but I'll show you how we've spared no expense in terms of our icon here.
I know, I love this.
And see this other one?
It looks concave.
So, So anyway, that's the easy way to tell these apart.
And then they just enter. So what if I don't enter an alpha value? What happens?
It'll make a guess.
Okay. Is it a good guess or a real bad guess?
It's a guess.
Okay. I think it's a good guess.
It's not a bad guess, actually. Like for the city event, we did a thing, I don't have
graffiti.
it handy.
With graffiti, and the guess actually just has holes in it and everything.
But if you start to play with the alpha, you can start to see that, sadly, all the graffiti is right along the SkyTrain. Oddly enough. So we've done some playing with that. But anyway, that's on hulls. All right. Now I could probably hand this over to Don.
This gives me tingles.
It's hard for you to probably get this down into
Even my wife knows I'm excited about XML, so I have to be careful.
So is it easier, Don, or
it's called having fun now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that easy. And there's a number of formats, of course. Some of these formats are pretty tough. Like AIXM is the aeronautical format that's put inside things like Airbuses and things, so all the airspace. And all the other ones are for our European friends out there.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And this...
Oh, yeah, there wasn't a lady who swallowed a fly. Yeah, I'll talk a bit about this later, but in FME 2011, I burned up all my 15... I could not do this in 15 transformers. In 2012, I can do this in 1, and we'll talk about what we can do there. But it's pretty exciting, and you might even get to hear us sing.
Yes.
So I sang almost in every city. Not the whole song. But,
wow.
But
see, next year I'm going to mix this up, and I'm going to do On My Way to St. Ives. I met a man with 7 wives.
Wow.
Each wife had 7 sacks. Each sack had 7 cats. Each cat had 7 kits.
Wow.
Kits, cats, sacks, and wives.
Yeah.
How many were going to St. Ives? I'm going to model this in XML.
Awesome.
Only to find out that the answer is 1.
Yeah, that's
St.
right.
Ives. But,
well, actually, now I don't do a lady. I actually do the sequel, where there was a group of ladies who got together to wonder how the first lady died.
Okay.
And so they all ate a fly. But then you have to make sure you get the right flies with the right ladies. And
But all of this seriously is about creating hierarchical XML documents.
Yeah.
Most of our world is relational.
Yep.
In other words, things are nicely split out into tables and layers. But XML people love nesting things inside each other.
Yeah.
So I know the smart grid stuff that Mark and some of others of you may have worked with, you compose, like substations are part of networks, are part of
awesome.
all these things.
Yeah.
And so you have to take this well-behaved relational data and kind of corrupt it down into a hierarchical model.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word corrupt, but...
and then just in time for someone else to decorrupt it.
That's right. That's right.
Back out into a relational model.
That's right. That's right.
So,
that's right. So that's all very exciting. So that's foreshadowing. You're not going to want to miss that.
Yes, you are doing that later today.
Oh, I am, absolutely.
No stopping you.
You know that I'd blow a temper tantrum and I'd be standing in the hall just...
If it doesn't happen, we're going to go into overtime today.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we like to, this is very un-Canadian of us, but we do say that our CityGML is the best reading on the planet.
I think it's the galaxy, actually. But,
but
we were
it
modest.
also might be the only reading on the planet.
It might be.
But anyway, several vendors do use our stuff. CityGML seriously is a very good format for 3D city models.
Yep.
Very, very common and popular in Germany, Netherlands, European countries, and we do a great job of that. All right, on the desktop, there's really one feature we wanted to highlight on the desktop, and that is these, what we call powerful parameters.
Yeah.
Some people, I know...
Hey, wait a minute. The attribute renamer now has default values even.
Yes, that's true. It does too.
That's a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I never even
Small
noticed that.
thing, but a big deal, right? Before you had to test, and you'd run out of your 15 transformers just trying to figure out which ones weren't there.
Right, so you can rename something, and if the original wasn't there, we'll give it a value, the new guy a value. But these powerful parameters give us this funny little button there to hit, and then we get a bunch of options about what we can do to set things. And we can also concatenate strings together.
So if I had like a city, if I had an address, it was like street number, street name, I could just do it right in there. I didn't have to drop down another one?
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a little example that I change every time I use it, called the mains demo here.
It's like the main demo?
Yeah. So this is an old example that, let me just look at the input data first to kind of get us thinking the right way. Whoops, okay, DWG, good. And we'll go up to here. If I zoom in here somewhere, whoops, that's a little bit aggressive. You can see I've got kind of a network that isn't very noded, and I've got text here where my water meters are. So if I mark these, and what I want to do is go and create the little feeder lines that are coming into there, and then I'm going to also split this line at that part of the network. So that's what this workspace here is. It puts these water meters into the neighbor finder, and then for each point it finds the closest line and outputs that here. So I get a 2D point for that spot that's close to the existing line. This extends it out to the meter, so I've got that little feeder line, and then I take another copy of the point close to the line and put into the point on line overlay, which basically snaps it into the network and cuts the line. So that's what that one did. And then it also here outputs the meters as a text label. So what I want to do, I'm going to just say, imagine I wanted to buffer out those little feeder lines.
Okay.
So I'm going to put down a bufferer.
Bufferer.
Okay. So I slap that down. I'm going to take a copy. These are the feeder lines here. Slap it in. And I'm going to buffer it. And so I could always type a number, but that's kind of not so fun. But I might want to do something interesting, like open the arithmetic editor here and say, you know, I want to make this a function of something. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask the user how wide of a buffer do they want to use.
Okay.
In fact, I'm going to say,
right within there.
I just went in here and said, make a published parameter to ask the user something. And in fact, I'm going to ask them for, let's buffer it by a percentage of the length. So let's see. So I want to call this the buff percent, and buffer percentage amount. Okay, no default value. And that's that. It pops it in there. So, and I'm going to multiply. That's going to be a percentage. So I need to divide that by 100.0 to get it down to a ratio. I'm going to ask people to enter like 10 or 20 or something like that. And then I'm going to multiply it by the length. What I happen to know was here, this distance. Whoops, I need to multiply by that. Okay, so I've just written an expression.
Wow, and you didn't have to type any attribute names, which is great.
Nothing. I dragged it all in there. And now if I do prompt, whoops, I better I'll add an inspector onto this just so I can see what's going on. If I prompt and run, it asks me for the percentage amount. I've now added to the user interface of this thing right within the parameters deal. I'm going to buffer it by, let's say, 80% of the length. So they're going to be pretty close to square buffers. It could be kind of ugly, but that's okay. And so we'll run this, and it'll pop up its thing. And so I should see these sort of fat little things.
Oh, wow, look at that.
There. So all of that was just to show how anytime when I'm being asked for a parameter, I can set it, of course, to an attribute value, but more interestingly, open an editor either to do math or I can glue strings together. Yeah. And I've got one here that I cooked up earlier called Main's Fancy, which this one does a few things. It lets me do some prefixing. So I've got this attribute creator here, which does a couple of things to adjust text size, but also in here, I'm going and, I guess I'll go advanced, I'm just adding a prefix onto each text string. And so when I run this one, let's do prompt and run, and I'm going to do prefix of YVR, just so that you know I'm not making it up. And this will make an extra set of labels, for example. And so if I zoom in somewhere here, you can see that that all happened. So anyway, you can see we can glue strings together, we can do math, we can get out to the user to ask them things, all very, very quickly and conveniently. And so that's really the most important part of that. We didn't talk about FME Evangelist. If you don't know about him, you should. You can go to evangelism at safe.com and read the articles. They come out about every week or two. Yeah. Is the evangelist joining us here today or not? No, he's not here, but he's tuning in.
Yeah, he's on. Got to be online.
He's online watching. Hi, Mr. Evangelist. A little shout out to Mark Ireland. Does a great job of that. He called it the integrated GUI. Some of our French reseller published this stuff as Parametrage
de Shelley.
Parametrage de Shelley. Because the woman who worked on this at SAFE, a fantastic engineer of ours named Shelley, and for a while we called this the Shelley stuff, and unfortunately it leaked out, and then it got translated to French. So, but it's really called powerful, or we called it integrated parameters. Okay, Mark, are we talking FME Store at the end of the day today, or Stuart or somebody? No? Okay, so it's voted off the island, I guess, today, so we're not going to talk too much, but really the FME Store is, it's mostly, we were going to joke that it's a dollar store, but it's actually even cheap.
It's a free store, mostly.
Mostly it's a dip and save, as we would say.
That's right.
But basically, we're making available all kinds of resources to users right in the product that are online, which grow with time. Now, there are some third parties that have added things that are for sale in there, but the majority of stuff is stuff from us that's free. Yeah.
So in the past with FMEPD, if you went there and you looked for something, you'd have quite a bit of work to get it in Workbench. Now, when you're using Workbench, you just discover it right within the product.
Yes. So that's what we'll show. Now, Dimitri is here today. He's made a presentation of his top. It was supposed to be his top 10 picks, but he couldn't cap it at 10. There's actually 14.
Wow, so he just couldn't. There's just no stopping Dimitri.
It's a Russian 10, I guess.
That's right.
So
it's a little bigger. It should have been called the bigger than a baker's dozen.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's right. It's fantastic. His picks. And maybe Dimitri will get you to make a YouTube video of that talk, and we'll make that available on the FME channel.
That would be awesome.
Which is a great resource to be aware of on YouTube as well. Okay, so that's what it is. there's a few places where the store shows up. And so one is when I go here and I say, let's see, create me a workspace. Down in here, I can find all these examples. So if I want, for example, a starting point to do with LiDAR, I could pick one of those, or Raster, some of these ones.
Yeah.
That looks interesting, actually.
Yeah.
These are all free. The Penbay ones, on the other hand, is a little bit more pricey.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Right.
And probably needs more description.
Right. So here's some things on FME in the cloud. This looks like using simple notification services. So you just double-click these, and down they come to get you started.
Yeah.
So that's that one. Now, also, whoops, I'm just going to make myself a blank workspace here. Let's see, blank.
Nothing like a blank workspace.
It's
really.
a nice, clean way to get started.
Yeah.
And so if I start in here, I can look down here in my transformer gallery. There's an FME store category. And like these DMTI guys are an example of a third party. And if I, let's see if I can get myself, so I can drag this out. And, whoa, that's bad, Don.
Yeah.
I didn't try that before, so the store must be not open this morning. So, well, that gives us something to work on.
Oh, there's always more. Yeah.
All right. So, but you can also type in here, if I would type measure, for example, and say measure generation from Z, that would download it from the store and pop it in there.
Yeah.
And some of our staff have actually found these useful already, even though they didn't know that they were even there.
That's right. There's a good feature merger one. What's that one called? Take
Is
feature
it the
merger.
unconditional feature merger?
Unconditional feature
Or is it
merger.
unconditional?
There it is.
It's unconditional.
Yeah.
So it just merges things, I guess. I don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
somebody said it's useful, and there you go. So that's the store, and you can get templates or transformers from it.
Yeah. Or custom formats now in SP2.
Oh, right. Yes,
Yeah.
custom formats as well.
Yeah.
And if you want to know more, again, our friend Mark has made some stuff available for everybody there talking about it.
No,
Okay, just the last 15 minutes here to introduce a few things about FME Server, and we got a question on that. Okay. So, go to the polls. What's our question, Roger? And let's get the polls going for the folks at home.
Yeah. Before we get to the polls, Craig had some breaking news apparently to relay here. And back at the office, they scheduled a course on Raster. So that is open for folks here to register for.
Excellent,
okay.
Excellent.
So the poll question here is, how familiar are you with FME Server? So we got three options here. One is never heard of it.
Okay, folks at home here, or folks here, how many have never heard of FME Server or don't know much about it? There's nobody in that category, okay.
Okay, the other option is know it a bit.
Know it a bit? Yeah, okay, fair bit of you, okay.
Okay, and the other one is have it and use it.
Have it and use it. Okay, Stuart is in that category.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for, we got one person here. All right, that's great. And so are the poll answers coming in yet?
Yeah, it looks like the poll results online are pretty similar. Most people kind of, they kind of know it a bit, maybe use it a bit, but yeah, that's about the same.
Okay, excellent. All right, so just to kind of summarize, the idea of FME Server is to take the great stuff you do on the desktop and very quickly push it up to be run kind of hands-off in a centralized way. And why would someone on a desktop want this? What's the value? Well, one thing is you can schedule things to happen automatically instead of to introduce more repeatability or rigor into important business processes. Another one is sharing transformations via web page. Our friends at Shell, the guy figured out how to do that interesting 3D PDF. But he didn't want to give that to everybody or have everybody have to have an FME installation. He puts that up on a server, then he just gives a web page to his friends, and they don't even know FME is there, so they can take advantage of the processing abilities without needing the whole FME installed.
That's right. We also have an easy translator on FME PD as well, so you can just, as a service, translate any format to any other format.
Yes. You can also offload work processing that is on your desktop to be up on the server as well. So the idea is you author with Workbench, and then you push it up to the server. And so I'm actually going to try doing this here. So my mains fancy, wherever it was. So if we look here, let's get this back down. Here's mains fancy. So this is the one that we were doing. If I do this prompt and run, you can see that here's a few parameters that it asks. And I might say, now I want to push this up to the server. And I'm going to try pushing this up to the server that Don set up for me to play with. Thank you, Don. This is running an Amazon EC2. And I can't do a server thing.
That's not good.
I mustn't have connectivity to the into the internets. So that might end my demo there, Don.
So what would have happened is it would have gone up. Yeah, this is...
Okay, well, I guess I can't do it, so that serves me right for changing my presentation.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
So
what would have happened is it would have gone up there, then you would have been able to upload data and run your workspace.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if it had worked, I would go out here to the server, and it would have appeared in here, for example, and I could have, let's see.
You'll be able to run it there.
Yeah, I wonder why I can't.
It's a bug.
Okay, you know of this?
Yeah, this is the same hotel we had our VAR meeting at. You might have seen those go by.
Yes.
And so we're going to be sending our server guys down to this hotel.
Because
this hotel has some sort of weird proxy thing going on. And
that does us in.
Yeah, as far as Workbench talking to...
All right.
Yeah.
So what I would have done is uploaded it, and then I'd have to log in. Yeah, okay, I can actually get the stuff here.
Yeah.
And then I would have been able to see my those parameters that I had published, and I can also see the request so that I can, if I wanted to, I could write my own web front end for this instead of using the one we've generated, or I can just give this URL to my friend as well.
Yeah.
And then I can go ahead and say run, and it would do its thing, and down would come the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would have been what I was going to show if I was able to show it. And I'm not.
Oh, that's too bad.
Hopefully you're not publishing anything up to the server
I am
today.
not.
Okay.
I learned to...
you learned your lesson.
Because I was here for the VAR meeting, so
okay.
This hotel scared me.
All right. So anyway, we can install it quickly.
Yeah, what sort of prerequisites do we have?
It looks like you don't need any.
None.
A computer.
Okay.
Well, you must have to have Windows 7 or something.
I guess you must have an operating system.
Right.
That's right.
But if that's too hard for you, you can also get an Amazon instance to install with.
Yeah.
And you can just grab that and go. And we do have customers that have deployed their own servers in Amazon as well.
Yeah. And all the servers we run that are visible are all in Amazon.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so we do have Active Directory integration, so there's security in the server. And if we go over here to security, it's pretty secure, I got to log in again. But I can see all these, and I always would joke on the road, Don, that probably I shouldn't be given this many privileges. It's very dangerous for you that I have run of the place. But if you are an organization that uses Active Directory, these things can be sucked in from your existing infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to maintain two things.
Yeah.
So that's that. Oh, you can also control somewhere in here who has access to what, including down to this thing called repositories, which is kind of like directories inside of the server. So I could have only I could see the things that are inside my repository or modify them.
That's right. And so now in 2012, when you create a new repository as well, only users in that same role who are in the same group will see them.
Can see them.
Yeah.
So if Don was smart, he would probably hide many of these from me because I could go and monkey around with his server. So there's that on the security side. I really love the administration side of this because if I go in here and look at the jobs, for example, I can see right now nothing is running.
Yeah.
If I had been successful with my demo, I'd have had something running, but I don't. So there's nothing running. There's nothing queued. And if I'd have been successful with my demo, there'd have been something in the history too.
Oh,
it looks like you're up to something.
Oh, I was playing around with sensors. Yeah.
You were again?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, making it easier.
Let's see.
Yeah.
That's today, isn't it?
Yeah. Every time
you just did that,
I have this
like you did that 5 minutes ago.
I found a sensor in Toronto, and every time it changes value, it sends me a notification, and I'm writing it to a Google Fusion.
I see. Well, we can snoop at this because we can say, let's take a look at Don's job that ran a few minutes ago. Even though he was here, that means it's running unattended. It's magic.
I know. It's scary, isn't it?
It's magic. And so we can go and, let's see, somewhere here, we can look at the log file and take a peek at what went on. Yeah. And I really love looking at log files, so it's kind of exciting.
I know. I love log files, too.
It looks like you're...
I was using a custom format.
Yeah, and you're reading
There's
from...
a new Pashu-based sensor custom format.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll tell us more about that later. It's nice to see you making use of the server while we're trying to do demos, Don. That's why I lived in fear, because I know Stuart and Don have this demo that they do that floods the server with about 800 jobs.
Yeah, it's great.
And I was just living in fear that I would be the 801st job that was going to be in behind that each day for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, there's some logging.
Was there?
Yeah.
Where?
Oh, just a picture.
Just logging. You're right. I never noticed that all week.
No. Yeah.
Look at that. I'm always so nervous that I never got a chance to see
you missed something. That's right. Yeah.
Well, that's
too
good.
funny.
Anyway, so server is this thing that lets you centralize things, run jobs.
Yeah, some people
hands-free.
I know of at least one company that installed server. They didn't even buy it. They don't have any engines, and they're just using it as a central place to put all their workspaces. Because then in an IT department, now you just have one directory to back up, and you've got everybody's workspaces. You don't have to wonder where the latest workspace is. So even from an IT standpoint, it adds some value.
Yes, and we don't have the slide in here, but one of our customers, Devon Energy in Oklahoma, gave a really good presentation about how they're rolling server out in their organization. And he talked, I think they have now 10 scheduled jobs that run every day that are part of their regular workflows. They have 5 that run on weekends.
Wow.
And then he said that they found that they're using it a lot for what he called ad hoc offloading of big processing off desktops.
Yeah.
So they could take big jobs that were normally running and tying up a desktop, push that up to the server, let it grind over there, and then being able to do important things like update Twitter status and so on their desktops. So that was a thing there too. Scheduling.
Oh, scheduling's big.
I know, it's fun playing with the schedule. Every day, Don, I would go in here and say, hey, Don's got something scheduled.
We now have an enable-disable.
I'm going to turn it off on him and see what happens. I always did that, but I never actually checked it in.
Okay.
But I don't
you
know.
can do that.
I know,
Sure,
nothing too bad would happen.
No, nothing too bad.
But you can do that. So you can schedule things, and I would also go and say...
Just no future subscriptions would ever be activated, that's all.
Right. I can make a new task where I go and I pick a workspace out of a repository, and what's one that's going to... No, mine isn't here that I was running with before, but I can try, let's see, like color last delivery. Yeah, there's a couple of parameters here, and I can fill those in, and then they would run at this time. Whenever, if I don't want it immediately, I'd say like basically run it at 10:30 and run it every hour, repeating every hour.
Yeah.
So you can set it up to repeat, and so I can parameterize the workspace together with its schedule entry. So I could have one workspace that's running a bunch of different times, but with different parameters.
Yeah.
So, once maybe for
Which
the production...
you couldn't do in 2011. We missed that.
Yeah.
And we missed the enable, disable, too, on the schedule. Scheduling was a big thing. People asked for it, and then, of course, you get a call from a customer who says, oh, that's great, I had a whole bunch of schedules. How do I disable them? And it's like, we missed that.
Yes. So very, very powerful. You could, for example, schedule the production database, the same workspace, to work on the production database at night and the test database in the morning, but just by fiddling some of the published parameters. So that's what scheduling is about. Data upload and validation. I bet you're going to do some of that, Don. Showing.
Yes, we are. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll foreshadow
That's
that.
a big use of FME, of course. Yeah.
So you can
foreshadowing.
And then you could chain workspaces together. So if this workspace passes, then we'll run that one. Otherwise, we'll run this one. So quite interesting systems can be created with
What
this.
are those links you got there? So these are all links. If when I get this workspace, I can click on them and
I don't
complex
know.
workflows?
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know. Okay, sorry.
I'm scared now. They look like they are.
They look like they are.
Well, maybe they would go somewhere. Oh, it's a video.
Oh, YouTube videos.
I see. I never even knew that it was there. Okay, if we go here, then you can see our friend Aaron probably. Yeah, it is.
There you go.
Look at that. It works.
That's the FME channel.
Never knew all this time. Okay, good. Well, when you get these slides, you can try these videos out yourselves. Okay, so we can also do data distribution in our friends at the City of Surrey, and I probably should be able to go here with luck. Yeah, you can go and fill out this form, draw what you're interested in, and then download the data that you want, just like that. And underneath, it is hitting an FME server in the back that's doing this grinding. So, whoops, that's that. Good. And friends in Arkansas were probably the earliest ones doing this for years and years.
Years big
and
site
years.
there.
Well, I'm going to try my hand at this, Don, since my other demo didn't work.
Okay.
You can get FME server to respond to events, and that's what Don's largely going to talk about this afternoon. So one is every FME server now has an email server as part of it. That's a new thing we've added. So if I go to my friend the FME Meister here, and I send an email into LiDAR at alertdemo.safe.com, and I say hello, and I send that. Now if I go over here, it's been sent. If I go look at jobs, if I'm lucky, it's running, yes. So the email was received. That kicked off a job that knows all about the email that was just given in there. It knows the subject, who it's from, and if there was the body, and also attachments.
Okay.
So all those things made it in there, and it's thinking about running and doing something right now. Oh, and it looks like it's done. And so if I go back to the Meister here, Whoops, I don't want to do that. I'm panicked now. Discard that.
Yeah, you like it so much you want to send another one.
Well,
just click on inbox there.
Click on inbox. Now we have to wait for the Googles on the internets to receive our answers.
Because you're sending, you must be, based on the name, I guess you're going to mail me back a LiDAR.
Ah, yes. Whew. I'm always relieved when that appears.
Yeah,
and so I got my, and so all of you can try this. If you don't like the take-home USB stick today, some people in Calgary thought those were chocolates, actually. Do not try to eat them.
That's right.
But
That's right.
Instead, you can just send an email in to lidar@alertdemo.safe.com.
Wow, that was 5 meg. Oh, you're really, you like to zing data around.
I do. And so then I can get this down. And this proves that it's my own personal, like that's quite a giveaway to get your own personal PDF with your email. You know, if you have a special person in your life, just sneak onto their email. You can mail in from there, and they'll have one too. Wow. And burned right in. And so all of that is...
Oh, wow, it even follows the terrain.
Yes, it's burned in. So that was done by that example at the very begining that we did. All that we did was add into there the ability to fish out the person's email address.
Yep.
And then I use a text stroker to make polygons.
Yep.
And then I do vector on raster overlay to burn that into the raster before I draped it. Wow. And so I burned it in that way. That's pretty fun. So that's, I think, all I'll show on that one. You can watch if files arrive.
Yeah, that's...
we've got sample code we can give people to do that.
So you could like set up an FTP site, and then when people drop a file on the FTP site, it would automatically, just the arrival of the file would trigger a job to process it.
Exactly. Don loves his sensors. Are you going to talk about the green goose later, Don?
Oh, I don't know. I can't.
Should I talk about it now?
Sure, talk about the green goose.
According to
just
this,
go to the site,
www.
Oh, yeah, we got lots of time.
Can we see what Don's up to?
Because really, we can go into coffee, because we know that we only really need a couple minutes for coffee.
That's right. So the green goose here basically is a thing that you can order, these little wireless sensors.
And my favorite sensor is the toilet seat sensor.
Yes.
You can see the picture of the toilet seat up there?
Oh, it just moved on you, but...
yeah, so you can actually put it on your toilet seat, and then when somebody in your house goes to the bathroom, you can say, did you put down the toilet seat? And if they say yes, you can say,
let's check.
You might want to go look. You might want to go look again.
So these guys are trying to find a market, basically, for this technology. But
and we bought 2 of these. Only one's come so far.
That's right.
And I've been telling people this $99, but I was wrong.
It's cheaper, isn't it?
It's $49.
Yeah, that's
$49.
right. What a deal.
Yeah, what a deal.
But basically, we set it up as if Dawn was our
and see, there it is. That's a Toilet Genie app. If you type Toilet Genie on your iPhone, you can get an app called the Toilet Genie.
But we've set it up so that Dawn has the sensors attached to him.
Yeah.
And so now when he leaves the office and he comes back, it says Dawn has gone for a walk.
That's
for
right.
An hour.
That's
and
right.
when he has his coffee cup, Dawn has been fed.
Yeah. So and I never go to the bathroom at the office anymore because I'm afraid
of the Toilet Genie. But anyway. So that's the green goose as an example of the kind of sensors. More seriously, there's this thing called twine.
Yeah.
I could try searching for twine.
Yeah.
Twine and spool. Okay, let's see. These guys are from...
Yeah, and
no,
it's...
I can't find it.
Yeah.
That's spool of twine. That is not the right thing. What if I type sensor? But these guys... Yeah, maybe Kickstarter would have got me.
Kickstarter, there you go.
There we go. Twine, listen to your world, and basically it's this little blue box that's going to post stuff to any place you want.
And it has a temperature sensor in it, has an accelerometer in it.
A humidity.
Yeah, it has a whole bunch of...
And a water, I think, in contact.
It's really, And if you tip it over, it'll know. Yeah, so... And that one is...
$50 as well, I think.
Yeah. We haven't it hasn't shipped it yet, though, have
No,
they?
because they had so many people. They wanted to raise 35 grand, and they raised $500,000. So they got a lot.
And that's before they ship. So
yeah, exactly.
Maybe they never want to ship.
But anyway, these things can be hooked into FME server very easily.
Yeah.
And I suspect, Don, you're going to talk about the Internet of Things a little bit or not? Yeah. Okay, we won't do it. So just to kind of wrap up, I got no time left. Just talking about FME, we think that we have the industry's best data support in terms of formats. Basically, almost anything that folks use, certainly spatially and even non-spatially, we have worked very hard to cover off that. And along the way, we have unbelievable data transformation. We've given you these transformer booklets, which are great for kind of getting you to sleep at night. But
I would love that on my iPad, you know.
Yes, it would be good. It's part of the way there.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can flip through these to understand the magnitude. I don't know what there's like close to 500 transformers, I think. It's really close to that many to do things. And so all of this lets us lets you get on with the important work that you do. I like to say what makes us at SAFE wake up in the morning and come to work is knowing that we're building something that helps all of you get your jobs done more quickly and more productively, moving the data from wherever it is to wherever it needs to be. Absolutely. So that the rest of the people in your organization can get on with life and make the decisions that need to be made using the best possible information, as opposed to everybody sitting around fighting with out-of-spec shape files.
That's right.
And so if we're even partially successful in that mission, then we are so happy to be playing that kind of a role. The world has enough problems that need data-driven solutions that we don't want people wasting their time writing code or doing other things inefficiently when it comes to moving data.
Yeah.
And so I think that's about it.
That's great.
Craig, what's our time like?